What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the arena. I'm MD, joined by Kobe, and our first ever virtual guest, another friend of Kobe's that he'll go ahead and introduce. But before we do any of that, as everyone already knows, we'll never start a conversation without first thanking those that take the time to listen, speak out, anything positive, constructive towards our way. It's why we do it. You're all our eyes and ears, and this has just been so fun. I'm already losing count of the conversations, and I think we still haven't.
This is number 8.
Number 8? Yeah, I was going to say, it's definitely less than what you can count on 2 hands, but I'm just having so much fun that you start to lose count, lose track, and really be in the moment. So with that, thanks again to those that listen. Pass it over to you to introduce your
what's
friend.
going on, guys? Matt here, as always. Thanks, as always, for listening to us, for the support, like MD said, for the feedback. We love it all. So again, always want to start out by saying that. And now I'm going to introduce someone. I had Alyssa, my sister, on last show, and this is Alyssa's and Jamie's, my sister's, kind of best friend from back in Elmhurst, where we're from. They've been best friends since, I'm probably going to lowball this, but 5 years old, something like that.
And 4 or 5.
There you go, 4 or 5 years old. I've known this is Nicole Kramer. I've known Nicole since basically then. I think our friendship has grown and our relationship has grown over the past few years.
Totally.
But Nicole is someone who, I definitely have looked up to for a while. I think she's really inspiring, doing a lot of cool things with her life, and it's been really cool to see. So without further ado, this is Nicole Kramer. I'll let Nicole give a little bit of a background on herself. I don't even know the title to give her. It's like everyone's got these easy job descriptions, and with Nicole, it's like I would just say a mogul, social media mogul, doing a bunch of things. So without further ado, Nicole, why don't you just provide a little bit of background on you and kind of your story and how you've gotten to where you are today?
Totally. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I have been stoked about coming on here for weeks. Matt, like you said, I've literally known you since probably 5 years old, and I'm so excited where our relationship specifically has gone. I feel like we both could have gone one of 2 directions, especially with me living far away, but we've matured and gotten so much closer. I'm so grateful to be on here with you guys. But my name's Nicole. I live in Los Angeles. I'm actually from Chicago, from the same hometown and suburb as Matt in Elmhurst, Illinois. I moved out to LA just about 2 years ago, and I'm currently in the social media marketing industry. But like Matt said, I wear a lot of different hats, so I don't have one specific title. I kind of moved out here to LA just to do it, just to see where things could go, and it's been going really great.
That's I can tell you're doing super well. So, I guess to start.
Well, I got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's hear it.
You've mentioned now that you're pumped to be on the show here. I'm just curious, your impressions of it, having had to watch some conversations and now finally be on it, speaking to it. What are your impressions? How do you think about this show, and what makes you so excited?
We appreciate authenticity here. So if there's anything bad, anything negative,
blush.
Let's hear it.
Nice things only.
No, I don't have anything negative to say. I think that it's super cool that you guys are doing this. I also feel like you're a little bit in a group, not a group of people specifically, but I feel like you guys are doing things that are a lot more creative and out there, things that people would be doing in Los Angeles, and you've taken it upon yourself to just, a lot of people talk about doing things, and you guys are actually doing it. You're not worried about who's going to say what. You're just doing something you love, something that brings you enjoyment. When it blows up, you guys will gain so many benefits, but in the meantime, you're just doing it. You're not taking second thoughts, and the whole initiative, that's all you need.
Yeah, and that would be great, right? If it gets big, that's great. But you know what that means is we're just touching a lot of people, and hopefully, sharing our stories, sharing our experiences will, resonate with others and help them kind of work through whatever they're dealing with, or just become the best version of themselves. So no, we really appreciate the kind words, but this is our chance to interview you. So let's talk about, let's start with moving to LA. So you said you're from Chicago. Around 2 years ago, you moved to Los Angeles. Walk me through that one decision, and then to kind of how it's going, right? I mean, I have a ton of respect for anyone that's able to move away from their home city where they've got all their, for the most part, friends and family. I think it's a huge jump. It's a huge leap. So I'm curious how it's gone and what kind of gave you the courage to do it.
Yeah. So it was definitely a big jump, a big leap. This was by far the hardest decision I've ever had to make. I mean, I have my whole family, my whole friend group, everything was based in Chicago. I had a perfect job, like everything was kind of set. And I just always had Los Angeles in the back of my head. It was something that I knew I would forever be wondering what if. And it took a lot of push to get me to actually move out. Like, I'll never ever forget the day I actually left. It was like, I feel like it was literally like a Disney movie scene. Like, my dad was standing on the front porch, like waving, we're all crying. So it was definitely a hard time, but it got to the point where Jamie and Alyssa had actually just signed a lease with their college friends, and I kind of backed myself into the position where I wasn't really left anymore. I didn't have any more options in Chicago. I kind of like delayed talking about leases or signing apartments with people in Chicago. And I think all of that waiting was because I knew LA and California was the direction I eventually wanted to go in. Like you said, it's really, really tough. Like, there have been so many people who've reached out to me being like, hey, like, I'm moving to LA, like, recommend any areas. And I think maybe one of those 10 different people have actually come out here and done it. And yeah, I mean, no hate to people who don't, because it, like I said, it was such a difficult decision. You have to pick up and move your whole life. But the way I looked at it was more so just like, my parents kept reminding me, they're like, it's 1 year. You're signing a lease for 1 year. If you hate it, come home. But you're not gonna hate it. Yeah.
So just two things I wanted to like unpack further. One, the process of you deciding to leave something, and then I think the second thing is the process of you joining something, which is LA and that life. Because you just said that we could fit into LA, and I'm more curious, like, what's that like? And but first things first, right? A lot of what you're saying sounds very similar to some of the advice and the conversations that we've had around, like, you just have to do it. But that lead up process of you delaying signing a lease, maybe delaying even that conversation, sounds like you felt internally this was your move to make, and like inherently this was something you wanted to do. But you didn't make the decision the next day. So what were the pull factors keeping you home?
Oh, wow. So initially, like, this had been back in the back of my head since probably senior year of college is when it started to get really serious, of me being like, okay, what are you going to do, like, when you graduate? Like, are you going to go home? Like, who knows? And I remember telling one of my friends in college, and actually I told Alyssa, I was like, I think I'm moving to LA. And one of my friends goes, are you joking? And Alyssa was like, you're not actually moving, are you? And I was just like, oh, like, I think I am. But I think some of those pull factors were knowing that, like I said, it would forever be in the back of my head, the what if, like, what kind of opportunities I would have had if I didn't move out here. And I think that was my biggest, like, push.
So that sense of regret, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Or that you might have.
Exactly. And you're always, I feel like year after year, if I ended up living in Chicago and signing a lease for a year, I feel like every renewed lease, I would be wondering, oh, like, maybe I won't renew this year and I'm going to move to LA this year. And it just doesn't happen. Like, I was still living at home with my parents. COVID had happened, and if it weren't, COVID actually was kind of a big help because it transitioned my sales role that was in an office to 100% remote. So I knew I would have a job coming with me. And I think that there was just a lot of different things going on in my head. But at the end of the day, I knew that I wouldn't be 100% fulfilled if I would have stayed back in Chicago. And knowing in the back of my head that 1 year, like, it's 1 year. If I hate it, I come home. I knew that.
So how much, yeah, it doesn't sound like it happened. How much did having someone to go with help you make that decision, right? Because I think I've thought about, moving to a different city for different reasons, but for any of it, and the thought of going completely alone is challenging. It's scary. It's all those things. And I'm sure you felt all those things as well, but how did having kind of that, another person alongside you to kind of make that jump with, did that play a role in kind of helping you ultimately get the courage to just do it? Like you said, just doing it.
Yeah. I think subconsciously it probably helped me more than I realized. Just having that like support system even, and just like having that, home base. Anytime I got homesick, it wasn't like I was 100% homesick because I had him there with me, which was huge. But in another huge sense, we were both coming out here alone. So the perks of coming out here with someone are typically, they might have a couple friends out there that you're going to end up meeting up with, or they might have a job that brings you new connections. But both of us were coming at completely like ground zero, that it did still, and I was still with or without him, leaving all of the same things behind. So I think it definitely helped me subconsciously a ton. If it weren't for him, like, we came out here and we toured apartments, and we both loved this one apartment and this one unit specifically. The whole building only had this one unit, and he was ready to sign the lease like right then and there. And I literally delayed it up until the point where the leasing office called, because I told the leasing office when we left, we love it, you can't give this unit to anybody else, but I am not signing yet. And it literally took me until it was like 2 weeks later, they called me and they were like, someone else toured it, they are going to sign today if you don't. And it got all the way to that point, and I was like, all right, like, let's just sign. And if
it might have been a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, really, it really was. It was.
So one of the things that we talked about in previous conversations was, and I believe this, that things tend not to be as scary or as difficult as we initially perceive them to be in our own minds. Talked about how Kobe brought a friend to improv class when he started something new. Not nearly as significant as moving cities. Yeah. But looking back, Nicole,
still pretty proud of myself.
That's a pretty big deal. That's a big deal.
It's a hill to a mountain, but okay. No, I'm kidding. But like the reflection point was that, like, looking back, he really didn't need that. It wasn't as necessary. And do you have the same feeling? Like, looking back, could you have done it alone compared to how you initially perceived it? Not to say that the person who went with you wasn't helpful or that you didn't appreciate it,
for sure,
and all of that, but looking back on what it actually required of you to uproot and leave your entire family and friends behind, start anew in a new city, could you do it alone if you had to do it all over again?
For sure. 100%. It almost, in some ways, was not more challenging, because like I said, it was always coming back to having that home base. But I think looking back and how nervous I was, I 100%, it would have been a similar enough experience. I think it would have been also a little different because at that point in my life, I had never lived alone in general. I was like a fresh baby straight out of college living with like 13 girls. So I think a huge element of why it would have been so difficult is because it was also I moved during lockdown COVID. So if I wouldn't have had him here with me, I would have been like completely alone in my apartment for 7 months on end. We got to do.
Go ahead.
We just got to do. You're fine. We got to do the coolest stuff that, like, because it was lockdown COVID. Like, him and I got to go to hike the Hollywood sign 5 days a week, and we would literally drive right up to where you start the hike because there was no cars, there were no tourists, there was no one here. And since I didn't have friends out here yet, all of that would have been done by myself. So I could have 100% done it on my own, but the timing and everything made it so helpful having him here.
That's great that COVID sounds like it brought you guys closer, because I know a bunch of relationships where it goes kind of the other way, where you're with the person 24/7 and it's like, oh shit, this maybe wasn't what I thought it was, but it sounds like it was the opposite for you, which is great.
So I just had a point on why I asked that. But just real quick, because I think about the 1 in 10 people you mentioned. It's crazy to me that I think all 9 of the other people are capable of doing it, but in their own minds they're stopping themselves from that fear, maybe making it more grand. But anyway, I know you probably had
Yeah, no, I have a question. So, I mean, you said that you left a lot behind, right? You left family, friends.
Yeah.
My question is, how have those relationships evolved since you've been home? Have you gotten closer to friends, to family? Has it torn you guys more apart? Is it about the same? Like, I just want to get a sense for your relationships and how they've evolved as you've you're now, what, 1,000 miles across the country? Probably more.
Yeah. Yeah. After west of Chicago, there's nothing but desert. So it's definitely a pretty far distance. But my relationships with people have actually gone in the best of directions. The people that I want to be close, it kind of filtered out the people that I don't necessarily need in my life, or people I thought I needed in my life. Yeah. They're not really adding anything. And I think being out here, you have to focus on your relationships. They definitely take effort. Like all friendships, relationships, romantic relationships, anything. It takes effort. If you want to have a great relationship with people, you have to put in the work. But like my relationship with Jamie, Melissa, and Emily, my best friends since 4 years old, has grown exponentially. We talk about such important things. We talk about quality conversations. It's not back and forth BS drama.
It kind of filters out the bullshit conversations, right? It
for sure
takes those away.
For
you don't
sure.
have time for them. You don't see each other all the time.
100%. And that has been huge. Like my grandparents, I adore my grandparents. I wanted to make sure that, like, because I remember in Alabama where I went to school, I would come back and I'm like, I haven't talked to you guys for like 3.5 months, and it would tear my heart. So now I FaceTime my grandparents every single Sunday for at least an hour, because we used to have Sunday dinners together. So it's definitely filtered down the relationships that I have, and I keep in strong ties with a lot of the people that I want to keep in contact with.
So you like shrunk your social circle, but didn't feel the need to rebuild the volume of friends in LA. It's almost like you replaced the quantity with the quality growth of the friendships that meant the most to you, and probably were also more aligned and congruent with the things that you want to accomplish in life.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's like what I'm doing right now, but it's having to be very intentional when you live with all the people that you grew up with. Whereas moving to a different city, it kind of did that for you in a sense, which is kind of interesting, but you get to the same place.
It's knowing I was going to be on here, I've been like thinking about a lot of different things, and it made me realize that coming out to California, every single person I spend my time with, I like deeply want to be spending my time with them. 100% of my time is spent with people that I love and am like so excited to be around. And when you stay in a city, or even if you're in a city, like let's say you went to school, if I stayed in Alabama and still knew people, I realized that like with you guys being in Chicago and having, people you knew in college, you might love your entire college friend group. But if your college roommate has a friend from home who you just can't stand, you're kind of stuck with them sometimes. And it's just nice. It's like a completely fresh start. I came out
Sounds
here.
like a real example.
Well, Nicole, are you more extroverted than introverted? Because I think it's scarier for an extrovert because the idea of going and being like in solitude in a new city sounds amazing to me, but for an extrovert, like it might be more challenging for them because they feel more dependent on that social energy. I want to guess what I think your answer is, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong. Okay. I think from the outside perspective, I think most people would assume you're an extrovert. I think you're more introverted, and I think that you like your alone time. I think you need your alone time, and I think that's a very introverted quality. I think you have qualities of both. Yeah. But I think people are going to be surprised by your answer unless I just totally misjudge that, which could very well happen.
I think you nailed it on the head. I am actually pretty, like, naturally my natural self. I am introverted. I think it's taken a lot of growing, and especially since I did go to school away from home, that's a little different because you're coming home for breaks and stuff. you're forced to like meet new friends in a completely different way. You really have to put yourself out there. Still, almost every single event I go to, or even if I know I'm gonna know 10 people, it's nerve-wracking. Like, especially if you're going alone. Like, I literally went to an event on Wednesday night, and I found myself like getting so nervous because like the two people I knew there like were in conversations, and I was like, oh, like it's still, you still get that nervousness. And I've been out here for 2.5 years, but you know, that's what makes you grow. But yeah, I actually am I'm a natural born introvert, but I've grown and know enough where relationships and how you are with other people are really, you know, what brings you the most happiness. So I've kind of forced myself to have more of an extroverted personality.
I wonder if that's common. Like, I wonder if a lot of people put a facade of being extroverted because it's
more popular.
Like
that's like what, you know, that's the popular way now.
But deep down they're introverted.
Yeah, I think there's a big misconception. Being extroverted and introverted, I think, is more so like when you went to that, whatever the event you just went to, does that give you a ton of energy? Like being around all those people and like, you know, having all these small talk conversation, does that give you energy or does that drain you? And for me, I think I'm a little bit more introverted. So like something like that, and I could speak firsthand experience, would drain me a little bit more. I like building really close, genuine connections with a smaller group of people than having a bunch of more surface level type conversations with a broader group of people. And I think it just comes down to personal preference.
For sure.
Yeah, like we're going to dinner tonight, just you, me, and another friend.
Yeah.
And like it's meant to be like a close circle conversation, you know. And like I think that's where I sign up for that very easily. Do you feel like
those are
you're surrounding yourself in like the opposite type setting often? At least it appears so on social media. Like, do you feel like that discomfort is generating growth in an area that you're happy about, or at least pursuing that kind of growth?
For sure. Hugely, actually. I mean, having to put yourself out there, especially being completely alone, I've learned that in huge group settings, you have to be like okay with being uncomfortable, and you have to be okay with, you know what, if no one's talking to me this second, I can sit back and I can chill. Like you don't have to be like rushing to the next like conversation. Like I can sit back, I can watch what's going on. Like I don't have to be the person that's in every conversation. And then usually from that, someone new will come up and talk to me, or someone who's selling coffee will be like, oh, you just get into new conversations. And I've learned that in these situations where I don't know a ton of people, you really do have to kind of like, it's the perfect example is like when you introduce yourself to somebody, you usually forget that person's name because
I knew where you were going with this.
You're so focused on how you're gonna say your introduction. And now I'm like so good at names, it's kind of crazy, because I'm actually like, oh, I want to learn about this person. I want to know what their name is. I'm not worried about what I'm telling them my name is. So it is the similar kind of thing where you have to just take a step back and be like, I'm at this event. No one is watching me the way I'm watching myself right now, and just like enjoy it and relax.
That there's one overarching theme that you just described, and it's being present is what I think you just described. When you're listening to someone tell you their name, you're not just thinking about what am I going to say next. It goes the same thing for conversations. And I love that you said it's okay to not talk to someone every which moment and just sit there, be present and let it come to you. Or maybe you sit there for 5 minutes and then you're like, okay, now I think I'm ready to go have another conversation, and you go up to someone. Right. I think it's totally okay. I think that's definitely going to be a soundbite.
That's so true, because like think about, that's the anxiety of being in these, like think about this giant backyard party, right, or a bar, like these huge group social settings where like one of the most uncomfortable positions you can be in is not in that conversation, like you said, Nicole. Like why are we so uncomfortable just standing there? Because we're so focused on that next conversation. We're so focused on the image of just standing there and being present and letting things come to us. And I like, oh man, that's such a good point.
It's real, man. I was in Miami for work, and I'm around all these older gentlemen and women, and I think I went to the bathroom like 3 times within 30 minutes. I didn't even have to go to the bathroom. I just couldn't sit alone. I couldn't just stand there and not be talking to anyone.
Yeah.
Like that gave me so much anxiety. And honestly, hearing what you just said, it helped me. It resonates. Everyone's probably feeling that way.
I mean, trust me, I have my fair share of going to the bathroom more times than I need just to get out of a situation. But you do need to just take a step back and be like, no one's watching me the same way that I'm watching myself.
Right.
I used to like chug my drink and then go order another one because going and ordering a drink at a bar was like an activity.
Yep.
Yeah, or I would go and I'd have a full drink and I'd go and order another one. And
you're like,
the guy's like, "What do you need this?"
Right. Yeah.
All right, let's take this. So I want to talk about your most recent role. You were, and you can describe this better than I can, but a social media assistant for all intents and purposes, a reality TV star.
Yes.
I want you to just kind of discuss that journey from when the initial outreach started to how the role was and to where you are now. Because I think a lot of people will find that interesting.
Yeah. So it's funny you say, like, from where I started to where it is now, because my old boss has an office that is rather well-known, you might say. And it's funny because when I first moved to LA, I would drive past the office and I would be like, oh my God, that's so-and-so's office, like, right on Sunset Boulevard. Like, that's so crazy. Like, I emailed her my resume so many years ago. Like, oh my God. And then it transitioned to like, oh, like, that's my office. Because I would go there and I'd work there all the time. And now it's transitioned to driving by and having an incredibly sour taste in my mouth. And usually sometimes one of my friends in the backseat will be flipping a bird. And it's just crazy how quickly things can evolve.
So sour taste. Why is that? Yeah. Why is that? Why are birds being flipped when you go by it?
He likes drama. He wants to hear.
Yeah,
that. No, I want to listen. I know this a little bit, but I really don't. And I think it's a good story. I think there's going to be some lessons that we're going to take away from this.
For sure, because I have learned so many lessons, and I'm also really grateful to have gotten that kind of experience so early on into living in California. That experience was great. I wouldn't trade literally 1 millisecond of it, and even with the sour taste in my mouth.
And so what were you doing, just so our listeners are aware, like, what were you doing for them, like, for that person?
I was a personal assistant, completely personal assistant with a niche in social media. So I was her social media assistant with also the tasks and same roles as a personal assistant. So it was a literal 24/7 job. And I was here for it because we're at the age, and I moved here to be part of that grind and working till 11:30 at night and crazy events and weekends, and you don't have, like, I didn't have one day of the week just knowing, oh, cool, I can do whatever I want today. Like, not at all. So it definitely gave me an inside look to California and really what's going on. And my biggest overall, like, huge takeaway from it is you see, like, all of these things and events that influencers and celebrities and everyone that they're all going to, and everyone's like, I want that, like, I want to be in that. And once you're in it and you really see, like, that world, they hate I don't want to say they hate every single event, but every single, at least for the person I worked for specifically, every single event was just like, like, I don't want to go, like, dreading it, I have anxiety, I'm canceling this, I'm doing this, and I'm just like, this is not at all what it's made out to seem like it is. And it's also...
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was curious for those events where it's celebrities, influencers, people that, at least on social media, would you, from an outsider's perspective, think they're very happy, they're doing very well, they're living the life. once you're in that room, in that arena, if you will, is that the same sentiment you got from people? Was everyone just like super happy, living the life, or did you get a sense of maybe, I don't want to say some artificial happiness or artificial, like putting on kind of a face for the crowd, if you will, or just the broader audience?
Yeah, I think once, you know, the event started and you're in a big group setting, everybody is like happy and excited to be there. It is a very like, but it's crazy because people think because it's LA and celebrities and all these crazy things, it is the exact same thing if you go to an event or a bar with a group of people for a friend's birthday. It is the exact same thing. It is just people getting together, and I think the more artificial part of it was the beforehand and how many events they would just last minute cancel. I also think I was working for an extremely unhappy person who I don't even necessarily know if they realize how unhappy and toxic their life is because of their habits. And I think that everyone is different, but that's also another reason, like, I'm so grateful I got to see that firsthand experience so early on, because even on a much, much smaller scale right now, just from being in the social media world, I'm getting invited to events. I'm getting invited, like last night we went to a grand opening for Fogo de Chao, like so random.
Sounds phenomenal to me.
It was so good. But it's just like I found myself kind of getting in that pattern or habit, and it's strictly stems from like the anxiety and the nervousness you feel because you don't know what you're getting into, you don't know who you're gonna meet, you don't know you don't know really anything about events before you go into them. And I found myself, like, if I was going to an event with Sam, when I was getting ready, I would be like snippy, like I would be running late and I would be like, I don't know, like I don't have time, like, or I like whatever. And I realized, I'm like, I don't want to get into that same pattern. Like, I'm living in LA, I'm going to an event I got invited to, like, same exact thing of, like, being present. Like, I was like, you need to enjoy all of this, because if you want to continue this lifestyle, the events and everything, they're the exact same. It's seriously 100%, like, how you look at it. Like, it doesn't matter if you're Leonardo DiCaprio or you're a micro influencer. It's the same thing, just with different people.
Mm-hmm. So I was like starting to wonder, like, how you, because you seem pretty self-aware of like your mental health and like maybe how you were started to change behaviorally moving into that environment and being around it and perhaps even influenced by it. How did your mental health evolve from what you left in Chicago to getting surrounded by what seemed to be, you had to work very closely to somebody who seemed to be, you know, not where you want to be. So did you start to feel yourself slip away a little bit?
Just to add on to that, it almost, what I was hearing is it almost sounds like you started to see a little bit of yourself going down the path that you were of your boss, of kind of like what they were going through. It feels like you were starting to kind of like, oh, if I keep doing this, that's going to be me. Was that the case? And kind of just speak to his whole question of mental health.
Yeah, I think I actually started to work on my mental health and like spirituality before coming out here. It was probably right before COVID started. The biggest change or shift in my life that I can remember is I went to visit my friend in Miami, and she was just like glowing of happipiness. She had moved to Miami from Alabama, and she was just like, oh my God. And I literally looked at her and I'm like, dude, like, you are real, like, I'm so happy for you. And she started telling me about what she had been doing, and she referred me to the book The 4 Agreements.
I've read it.
That book resonated with me so hard. It truly, like, completely transformed my life. And that, I don't think it has the same effect on people that it did on me, because it really was like the biggest stepping stone for me to be like, all right, everything you're feeling can be fixed right now. But like in high school and even partly in college, like I was not a great person. I mean, I wasn't a bad person. I was still just, you know, a young kid living in the suburbs with my parents. But like relationship wise, friendship wise. Like, I was not an honest person. I was a complete like shell of a human. I am compared to now. And it didn't take this like huge life event for me to get where I am now. It kind of just took some realization, like, you're behaving this way because you are feeling X, Y, and Z. And what do you need to do to, fix that? And I came to realize there were a lot of really simple fixes to make me like a completely transformed person. So I'm lucky I had my, spirituality before coming out here. It definitely at times can ebb and flow. And I knew during when I was working for this person, I knew my mental health had gone down a little bit, but I was also like, it was part of the grind. I kind of just had to keep my head down and stay focused. But I'm very grateful to have, had the mental awareness I have now during that time.
Go ahead.
What's an example of like an area of growth, like an area that you realize you've completely transformed of yourself for the better?
So from the 4 agreements, the first agreement is to be impeccable with your word, which pretty much means like you're always telling the truth, like no matter what. And I used to, like, in high school, like, I used to be almost a compulsive liar. Like, I didn't think, like, I would just say things out of nowhere that was, like, I wasn't even thinking I was lying. Or it would be, like, someone would ask me to hang out, and I would come up with some excuse as to why I couldn't hang out. And then after reading the book, I'm like, no, I can just straight up tell them, like, I don't feel like doing anything right now. Like, you don't have to, like, things like that, little fixes about, just if you're always 100% honest about what you're doing and everything that's going on in your life. I mean, you don't have to give more information than you need if you don't want, but that was definitely a huge part of helping me out. And also, it's molded a lot of amazing friendships I have out here, where if I was still trying to please everybody and always trying to tell someone why I can't make it instead of just being honest, I think I would definitely be in a lot more of like stressful friendships, which was like my biggest goal, was to get rid of any kind of friendships that made me feel anything but 100%.
You're taking the words out of my mouth. Like I was going to say, it sounds like, no, it's great, it's amazing because it's all clicking, but it sounded like there were some people pleasing tendencies.
Yeah,
you're telling lies to so you don't want to hurt anyone, which I think a lot of people get caught up in. I mean, to some extent,
it's like exhausting and unsustainable is how I would describe it.
Yes.
Yeah. So the agreement that I like from the book, I mean, they're all great. I think it's awesome that it transformed your life. I wouldn't say it transformed mine, but it definitely comes from a different light than most self-help books. There was one around, I think it was, I don't remember. Do you know the 4? There was one around you do? Okay, read them off to me and I'll tell you. Okay, yes, so that one. Don't take things personally.
Yeah.
I think that one of the 4 was most life-changing for me, or resonated with me the most, because at the end of the day, what it taught me is, when someone says something to you, it's really just a reflection of how they feel about themselves or how they view the world. Like it's not reality. Yes. And it really helped, because I was someone that took everything personal. Like everything felt like a direct shot at me. When in that really opened my eyes, like that is not how it is. And once I was able to really not only understand that but live it, I mean, it's made the world of a difference.
And when you're unable to live that realization, how much you go above and beyond to try to appease those perceptions. And I think that's what Nicole was getting at, is like, I'm lying to people. Really, I'm lying to myself on, not being honest with myself. I like what you said, is like, I could just say, I don't feel like doing this. But you don't have to overshare why or get into too much information. You could still be honest without fully sharing.
And if it's a good friend, they'll understand. Or
Exactly.
And that's the filtration part of it.
Exactly, and the not taking things personally definitely is a close second with being impeccable with your word. Just because I started doing the opposite, because it's easy to say don't take things personally. Well, if someone flips me off, that feels pretty personal, and it's just kind of like, so I started doing the opposite effect, and this is really when it started to hit home. if I said anything negative about someone in the back of my head, or it could literally be anything, but I started to notice anytime I would say something about someone, and I would like take a step back and I would be like, okay, well, if I'm not supposed to be taking things personally, they shouldn't be taking what I'm thinking personally. So what's going on in my life where I felt like I needed to say that, or I had that kind of thought? And I remember this one specific example, like so stupid. I was in a hurry or something one day, and a lady either like cut me off or just like walked across the street when I was really trying to go. And I think in the back of my head, I was just like, dumb bitch. Something like that. Like, so casual. And I'm like, okay, hold on, Nicole. Like, why should this woman not take that personally? And I was like, it's because you're not on time, you're late, so now you're nervous and anxious about being late, so just work on your time management and fix it. And you just kind of need to do that's really what helped me.
That's amazing. No, that's a great story. And
you
how
just start thinking about it.
Don't take things personal. I mean, that is so much easier said than done until you're able to actually see it for what it really is. Yeah. I mean, that is amazing.
I mean, coming into the show today, I was feeling anxious. I was in the line at Chipotle picking up lunch, but because I was running behind, because I didn't time manage correctly, they had some like system error, and they were like, we're not processing orders like fast enough. I was getting frustrated, almost like personally with the employee. I didn't say anything, but I had to like really wind myself back and think through. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm only feeling anxious and frustrated with this person because I'm anxious, but because I didn't time manage my day correctly, and this is 100% my fault.
Right, everything is your responsibility at the end of the day. I mean, we even talked, like, I was getting a little frustrated with you because I didn't think you were ready, and it's like, but when I actually peel that back, it's because I was running a little bit behind, so then I'm scrambling, and then I'm getting upset with other, I think it all stems from yourself, and once people are able to realize that everything stems from yourself and from within, I mean, it's life-changing.
It is, so that really helped me not take things personally, but also, like, fix myself at the same time.
So, fix yourself.
What are the other two?
What is that? What is that?
My bad.
No, go ahead. She knows the other two. I don't remember.
Putting her on the spot.
Don't make assumptions. Right?
Don't make assumptions. So don't be impeccable with your word. Don't make assumptions. Don't take things personally, and always do your best. Because if you're always at least, you can't every single day. You can't be 100% every single day. There's some days where everyone's at a different state in their life. Like, there's some days where someone might not be able to get out of bed, but if they got out of bed that day and made breakfast and went for a walk, like, they're at least doing their best. So there's times where I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to, like, you need to do this and you need to get this done. And it's just like, you know what? I am doing my best. And some days, if I just don't have the 100% I had in me yesterday, that's fine. But if you're at least always trying to do those 3 things the best of your ability, that's all you can ask for.
And I always say, like, give me 100% of your 80%.
Yeah.
If you're feeling less than 100, give me 100% of that. But anyway, sorry, I keep cutting you off here.
No worries.
We're excited.
I heard this question. Yeah, this is an interesting dynamic. I wish you were sitting next to us.
I know. Next time.
What advice? I heard this question. I listen to a lot of podcasts, self-help, mostly because I really find it enjoyable, the conversations, but also because I think it's interesting to hear really good podcasts, a really good host. Trying to refine my skills a little bit. But there's a really good question I heard. What advice would you give your younger self? Now, like, take yourself back, if you were talking to 10-year-old Nicole or 14-year-old Nicole, what would you tell them?
It's interesting because I thought about this question before coming on, and I feel like it has a little bit been our overall theme today, but I would definitely tell myself to just be more present, because it's not easy to tell. You can tell a middle schooler and a high schooler as many times as you want, none of this matters right now. And in the grand scheme of things, no, it doesn't matter. But in that moment, it does. And those are real emotions, and you're hormonal. And I wish that at a lot younger of an age, I would have been able to just be more present. Even if you have a ton of BS going on with your friend group, or at home, but there's just so many different situations I look back on, and I'm worried about what this person thinks, or I'm worried about what I have going on next week. And it's something I still struggle with. Like, I know that next week my parents are coming to visit, so this whole week I'm, doing extra to prepare for that. And it's like, you need to still remember your day is your day, and it's what you make it. So I would definitely I wish I would have been more present and more aware of everything at a younger age. What about you guys? What would you tell your younger self?
I'm ready if you got to think.
Go ahead.
Because I wasn't as present as I should have been, and I started to think about my answer, which is, anyway. I would tell myself, be less afraid of what other people think. And not just friends and externally, but really family. I think I've withheld a lot of honesty. And I think because my second piece of advice would be more honest as myself, but I think my lack of honesty stemmed from fear. So first domino to me was 100%. Like, be less afraid to be honest to, especially the people closest to me. I think I withheld. I think I appeased. I think I really sold myself short in certain areas of my own life because I was afraid to take the risks or to go against the grain or to at least be vocal and transparent in some conversations with people who are closest to me, because I didn't want to upset them or disappoint them or frustrate them. And all of these, again, irrational thoughts that you tend to make more of a mountain in your head than what is reality.
That's a great answer. I think mine's
That's a great answer.
Yeah, I think mine's very similar. I think it's just be yourself, and the people that want to stay in your life will stay in your life. The ones that don't probably shouldn't be there anyway. And just speak honesty. Like, I think everyone, when you're younger, struggles with it because you want to people please. You don't want to make anyone feel upset. You want to please everyone, and you're pleasing everyone else at the cost of your own mental health and at the cost of yourself. Totally. And so I think I would just tell myself to just be yourself and surround yourself with people that you genuinely like and that you genuinely care about and that you genuinely have a connection with. Because I think oftentimes when I was younger is like you're trying to put yourself around people who might be deemed the most popular. And you might share something common, you might share nothing. But if you got there, your status is up and you made it. While when in reality you go home and you're still the same person you were before. There's no prize for that. So I think that's where I think that would be my answer. Gosh, you flipped. I wasn't expecting the question to get flipped on us, but that's amazing. No one's done that before.
Yeah, you have to think about it.
Go ahead.
That's it.
Oh, I was wondering if if any of what I said overlapped with your transition to LA. Was there anybody in your family or friends you were afraid to tell, or did you have a fear of their reaction as part of a reason why you wouldn't do this?
Luckily, no. I don't think I would be out here if it weren't for my family, especially my mom. My mom lived in LA and Vegas when she was my age, and she was always my biggest advocate and biggest supporter. I think she also always knew that I thought I wanted something bigger, and if it weren't for my family, I don't think I would be out here. So I'm so forever grateful for them and for that, and that my
Shout
friends
out Mrs. Kramer.
Yeah, right? My friends and family had been nothing but supportive. Actually, I remember one specific conversation after I had already moved out here, and one of my college girlfriends, the first time I saw her after moving here, kind of made like a snooty comment to me about like, I do remember actually, but it was just like a little bit of a snooty comment. And it was, so before moving to California, I had always said, I don't want to live with whoever my husband will be before marriage. And that wasn't for, religious or spirituality. Mm-hmm. That was just because, and I still think this, that it's more fun. Like, you get excited to move in together after you're married. You get to pick out your apartment. And it's actually a conversation we're having right now that maybe if we are going to be forever, that maybe we will move out for a year or two and just kind of like experienced living together, and it's amazing, and that's great. But if we moved in together so young, because of the circumstances.
I've been there before.
Yeah, we weren't gonna move across the country during lockdown COVID at the same time living and paying separate rents in West Hollywood. It was not feasible at all. And I remember I visited my friends in college. I'd lived here for 6 months, and I went, saw my college girlfriends. Hadn't talked to this one girl in a bit. And the first thing she says to me, not, how's LA? Like, how are things going? How are you? She was like, I thought you said you were never going to move in with a guy until you got engaged.
That's just all out of envy. That's all out of envy.
And that girl, actually, specifically, I kind of put her on the back burner. I was at a point in my life where I was like, I do not need to please what your opinion of me is. And I did kind of separate, and it was a really good friend of mine. And I separated myself from her a little bit, and I'm glad I did, because our relationship, we never talked about that. I bet she doesn't even remember making the comment. But it definitely made our relationship a lot stronger, I think, because I wasn't just going to be like, well, I don't know. Like, I just kind of was like, what the fuck? And I just kind of, we didn't talk, not like we talk every day anyway, but it definitely made our relationship stronger, because I was kind of like, I'm not going to deal with that. And I think that, subconsciously it kind of puts your foot down, like, what you're going to deal with.
You could have handled that a number of different ways. But I think you handled it in the healthiest way possible. And that goes back to Mr. Four Assumptions. I forgot his name, but don't take anything personal. I mean, that to me, that just screams, and again, I know this is your best friend, so I'm not making any judgments here, but to me, it screams a little bit of envy, right? Like, you're out in LA, you're doing your thing, you're doing it, like, you're doing what a lot of people say they're going to do. Yeah. There's probably a little bit of envy there. And
it's more of a reflection of what's going on in their life.
Right, exactly.
For sure.
You said, Nicole.
Yeah.
So Nicole,
Oh,
go ahead.
At the time, I was just like so homesick, and I was so excited to see them, and I was just like, oh man, that one little comment like crushed me to my soul, because I was like, what? Like, I was just so genuine. Yeah, and you get it. It's just how you spend your time with people.
Yes. So we're gonna wrap up here, but I want to give you an opportunity to just shout out anyone that's gotten you to the point that you feel like is worth, giving a little shout out, and just kind of boast about yourself. What are you doing now? What do you got going on in your life? That kind of thing.
I definitely want to shout out my parents. They were, I would not be at all where I was if it wasn't for them. Like, everyone says they have the best parents in the world. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of people say they have the best parents, and I truly believe, in a support system wise, they have done nothing but give me 100% of everything they could, supporting me, not even financially, just being there for me, and like whatever. They give me the hard advice that you don't always want to hear. Also, all of my friends, all of my family, and I have to say Sam, he has really, I don't think I would even be in the social media world if it weren't for him, and him just being a constant advocate for me, always lending advice, always lending me equipment. It could really be anything and everything, but and I really have to shout out Jamie, Alyssa, and Emily. I don't know where I would be in this world if it was not for those three girls. I could get emotional just talking about them, but they are my world, they are my rock, and if anything goes sideways in my life, they are my first call.
So what are you doing now? Like, what do you got going on social media wise? What are you up to?
So now,
brag a little bit.
Yeah, I don't like this part of it, but I am, honestly, right now, I am absolutely thriving. I had, my work situation, and also a crazy life family situation, and I think a lot of people could have come out under that, and I think that I definitely will look back on this year, and even though I'm doing really well right now, I think I'll look back and be like, wow, you had like a lot of crap going on. But I just signed a couple of social media clients within like a week of each other. I don't have enough time for literally anything, and we are just so busy working out here. We're looking to hire a couple people on our team. I'm looking for an assistant, and things are just going really as well as they could possibly be going.
Well, now that you're going to be having an assistant, maybe just make sure you're not the same way that your old boss was to you. There,
my resignation text ended with, "I'm so grateful for this opportunity because I know now how I will not be treating my own assistant one day."
There you go. That's sometimes how you learn.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. So, all right, 3 rapid fire questions. I would say, first question: if there's a reason behind your answer, feel free to explain. But more just kind of think about whatever comes to your head. Best piece of advice that you've ever received, or just a quote that stuck with you.
Getting relative with the inevitable.
Explain that.
So getting relative with the inevitable, it's from Matthew McConaughey. It is in his book, Green Lights. Senior year of college, my favorite professor had us write a manifesto. And he said, write a manifesto about your life, like quote, and like who you represent. And at the time I didn't have one at all. And I had been feeling a lot of stress that senior year, and I made my quote, inevitable, meaning anytime I'm stressed out about something I don't have control over, I just take a step back and I'm like if it's a flight is canceled, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? You just need to take a step back and be like, your flight is inevitably canceled. You can't stress out about it right now because there is quite literally nothing you can do. And that really helped me with, my mental wellness as a whole, just having in the back of my head. And then when I read Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights, and his overall life theme is getting relative with the inevitable. So once you just kind of accept it and buckle up, that it's so, so true. And I 100% recommend that book as well.
I know a lot of people that could benefit from that advice. I thought of like 5 off the top of my head when you're saying it, and I've read that book. It's a great book. We seem
it's
to
a
have
great
similar.
book. I actually got a temporary tattoo that says inevitable. It's temporary.
Oh, is it going to be real?
No, God, no.
So all right,
grateful
second
it was
question.
temporary.
If you could have dinner with anyone in the world, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Can I pick 2 people?
Sure. You be the
Okay,
first
because
to say
one's
that.
dead and
Same
one's
dinner?
alive.
All right.
Different dinners. One's dead, one's alive, so we'd have to bring one back. Alive, actually, it comes back to the same thing. Probably Matthew McConaughey. Just, that's who comes out of my head first. I love him. Love his movies. I think he's a great storyteller, and I think after reading his book especially, he has got a lot of knowledge and wisdom, and I think he is just the coolest. I think he's so freaking cool. Second person, not alive, would be 100% Nelson Mandela.
Oh, good answer.
Yeah.
Very, very spiritual. Because Matthew McConaughey is like very spiritual. You wouldn't think so. Okay. Last question. What do you like to do in your free time? Hobbies, that kind of thing.
Oh, work out. I like to read. I don't have any good books right now though, so that's not a good answer.
I'll give you a few
I like to
offline.
work. Yeah, okay. I like to read. I like to work out, and really, if I have any free time, I'm trying to spend time with friends.
Very good answers. All right, guys. Well, thank you, Nicole, so much for doing
you
this
guys.
interview. Thank you for being open with us. Thank you for being honest. I think everyone's going to love this conversation, and we'll see why we wanted to have you on as our first kind of remote guest. This
I'm
was
honored.
very different, but very happy to have you. As always, thank you all so much for your support. We appreciate it. We love each and every one of you, and we're going to sign off here.
Thank you, guys.